hundreds of federal workers who lost their jobs thanks to Elon Musk and DOGE staffers earlier in Trump's administration are now being asked to return to work. Oops. So the Associated Press actually got a hold of an internal memo from the General Services Administration, GSA, which of course manages many of the offices and buildings used by federal agencies. Now, as the AP reports, starting in March, thousands of employees left the GSA as part of programs that encourage them to essentially resign or take an early retirement. Now, hundreds of others were basically dismissed as part of DOGE's, I would say, botched downsizing and cost-cutting efforts, which didn't really amount to much in the first place and caused all this dysfunction in the government agencies. But nonetheless, those employees didn't show up for work, but some continue to get paid. Now, overall, the administration slashed GSA's headquarters staff by 79%, its portfolio managers by 65%, and facilities managers by 35%, and that's according to a federal official briefed on the situation. Now, it turns out that that was in fact a bad idea, and now this new memo indicates that the GSA is asking about 400 employees who were laid off to please come back. Please, Jack. Don't let go, come back. Now, they've been given until the end of the week to accept or decline reinstatement. Those who accept must report for duty on October 6th after what amounts to a 7-month paid vacation. Sounds like we're spending taxpayer money well, during which time the GSA in some cases racked up high costs, passed along to taxpayers, of course, to stay in dozens of properties whose leases it had slated for termination or were allowed to expire. Now, Chad Becker, a former GSA real estate official, says that ultimately the outcome was the agency was left broken and understaffed. They didn't have the people they needed to carry out basic functions, and firing too many people wasn't all DOGE did in an attempt to dismantle GSA. A small cohort of Musk's trusted aides embedded in GSA's headquarters, sometimes sleeping on cots on the agency's 6th floor, and pursued plans to abruptly cancel nearly half of the 7,500 leases in the federal portfolio. Now, DOGE also wanted GSA to sell hundreds of federally owned buildings with the goal of generating billions in savings. GSA stated, by sending more than 800 lease cancellation notices to landlords, in many cases without informing the government tenants. Geez, this is insane. The agency also published a list of hundreds of government buildings that were targeted for sale. And that was also quickly dialed back. So more than 480 leases that were supposed to be terminated by DOGE have since been spared. Plus, as a result of the internal turmoil, 131 leases expired without the government actually vacating the properties. The situation has exposed the agencies to steep fees because property owners have not been able to rent out those spaces to other tenants. So just a complete and utter disaster. Not only did DOGE fail to provide the tax savings that Americans desperately wanted by cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, it turns out that their actions led to costlier issues and problems for the federal government. Cenk.
Yeah. So we covered this when it was first happening, and what do we tell you guys? We said, wait, how do you know which guys to fire? You had no time to study this. You can go back and watch the videos of ours. So do I want cost cutting, especially if it's waste, fraud, and abuse from the government? Of course, right? So, but somehow they missed, for example, $35 billion in oil subsidies. You couldn't find that? I found it. Ro Khanna found it. He's got a bill to get rid of it. I don't know, he has a bill on everything, right? And then Trump put in $18 billion more of subsidies. So even the overinflated numbers that DOGE gave for how much they saved isn't a fraction of that. So if you actually wanted to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, why are we paying the most profitable companies in the world out of our tax dollars? It makes no sense at all. And I've got 100 examples like that. And they said they'd cut the Pentagon, the most fraudulent, wasteful department there is. Instead, they added $150 billion. But when it comes to GSA and some other departments, they're like, cut. But what are you cutting? Okay, let's get rid of that building. How do you know if we should get rid of the building? Did anybody study, hey, what do the people in that building do? Once they realized later, oh, some of them were giving out Social Security benefits, and we have to still give out benefits, so we got to rehire them, get a new lease, get a new building, etc. Oh, we fired a bunch of people that were working at the IRS. Now they can't audit the wealthy. Oh, golly gee, I guess that was a mistake. This had never had anything to do with waste, fraud, and abuse, and it was done by a bunch of jackasses that had a different agenda and obviously butchered the whole thing. Most obvious thing in the war. And by the way, if you're a right winger and you wanted to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, they screwed you. Okay, because they didn't get rid of it at all, and instead they made the project of getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse look silly and dumb because they did it in a dumb way.
I totally agree. Look, and also when you think about, I'm gonna read the last graphic here. So DOGE's wall of receipts, which once boasted that the lease cancellations alone would save nearly $460 million, has since reduced that estimate to $140 million by the end of July. According to Becker, the former GSA real estate official. Trump just approved another $6 billion for Israel. $6 billion versus $140 million.
This is a joke, guys. It's the whole thing is fraudulent. You want to find waste, fraud, and abuse? This DOGE was nothing but marketing shtick so that you would forget that corporations and foreign governments own our country
and not only
own our government, right? Yeah. What did we save? 140 million. Besides which, I read the whole story through several outlets. No, you don't even save that because the idiots let a bunch of leases expire. Now we're gonna have to pay more to get new leases that cost way more.
Yep.
But they sold some buildings at a loss. Now we're gonna have to buy buildings at more expensive. They did payouts so that people would retire. Now they're bringing them back, so the payouts are gone, and we have to pay them. And for a lot of them, for the last 7 months, we've been paying them all along. So not only did we not save money, it looks like we wasted extra money on top. Oh, right, because I'm not gonna look. I don't care who's right or wrong. I don't care who has a job that is worthwhile and who has a job that's wasteful. I'm just gonna fire them all. Duh. Bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
And so now we can't go after. Now everybody's like, oh, that's it. No more going after waste, fraud, and abuse. It didn't work.
Yeah, totally squandered an opportunity. But hey, the tech bros got our personal information for their own purposes, so that's great.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.